Remember Lethal Company? Remember Phasmophobia? Remember Among Us? Remember Content Warning? Remember. Even if you've never played any of these games, you've definitely heard of some of them before. It really does seem like a new micro-indie co-op horror game explodes in popularity every couple months. Get a basic multiplayer concept along with some light horror elements that your favorite streamer can scream at, and you've pretty much got a recipe for success these days. That is, if you can hit it big in the first week. Because once people realize how shallow these games are, they quickly fade back into obscurity. But no shame to the devs who put these out. I don't think any of them really thought they were gonna make a little co-op horror game and suddenly become overnight millionaires. I mean, if AAA studios aren't gonna fill this huge market for co-op horror, then I'm glad that indies are there to pick up the slack. Which brings me to the latest entry in this trend, Kletka, a game about riding an elevator that wants to eat you. But this time around, the game isn't even out yet. It's actually just an early demo that's been generating all this buzz. And after coming off my last project, that sort of creepypasta take on Gloomwood, I was looking for something much smaller to take on. It may not seem like it, but from concept to asset creation, modding, scripting, and actually putting it all together, I spent nearly a month on that video alone. So a short co-op horror demo that everybody was raving about seemed like just the thing to cool off after such a long project. And short it was, not just in the fact that the average run lasted just a handful of minutes, but also in how bare bones the demo was. Which of course is fine for a demo, but the Steam page lists a release date of Q4 2024, which only gives them a few months max to finish the game. With that tight of a deadline, I can't really expect the final product to be that different from the demo, which is a little unfortunate. If this was labeled as an alpha demo with another year or two to go in the oven, I would say this is a very promising start. But going by their timeline, well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see how it turns out. But enough talking around the game, why don't I just get down to it already? Well, Kletka is about riding a monster elevator, but only like for a few seconds at a time. Despite the marketing and game design being heavily focused on the elevator, you spend almost all your time outside it. The bulk of the game consists of scavenging randomly generated Soviet tunnels for supplies to fuel or repair the elevator to go even deeper. There's the obvious fuel cans to run the thing, but you also find cogs to help you upgrade different parts of the elevator, increasing speed or health so you don't have to repair it as often. There's a couple other items, but nothing really stands out aside from the countless empty bottles that act as a sort of currency. You can throw them to trip traps or revive teammates at vending machines, but I'm not sure what other purpose they have, despite them being basically all over the place. Meanwhile, there's a variety of dangers on each floor, ranging from bear traps to landmines to mushroom zombies and even a killer mist to top it all off. Likewise, the floors themselves can have some unique elements, like being covered in slime or submerged in water. There's also a couple fun Easter egg floors we came across, like a Twin Peaks style red room and a little backrooms area. While the modifiers are interesting to encounter, the basic random generation for levels is sorely lacking. The majority of floors you come across are vacant hallways with a handful of dead ends, dotted with a few repetitive rooms and little else. There's some randomly placed traps, a ton of bottles, and maybe a monster or two, but it all feels very samey very quick. There isn't any story or objectives to accomplish in the demo, beyond just trying to see how far you can get before you inevitably kick the bucket, which can happen pretty quickly in some cases, like accidentally hitting a trap or getting stuck in some poison mist. But there are other times where you can go on for quite a while just because you lucked out and got some good floor generation. This is generally fine, except when someone in your group dies while the others continue to live on. If there's one thing I learned from all these co-op horror games, it's that you really do not want to have a lot of downtime. Lots of the people playing these games are either actively streaming or just expecting lots of high energy content in short bursts. But there are times in Kletka where party members can be out of the game for 15 minutes or so with absolutely nothing to do. I did mention earlier that there are vending machines to revive teammates, but the cost is quite high, around 18 bottles or so. The average floor might have like 5, and you can spend a couple minutes on each floor, so it isn't unusual to have large chunks of time where your friends are just stuck twiddling their thumbs. So for anyone looking to make the next big co-op horror sensation, my biggest piece of advice would be to not take people out of the game for too long. Even if they're eliminated, just give them something to do so you aren't losing their attention. Personally, I feel like they should just respawn allies when you get to a new floor, even if you give them like 1 HP as a penalty. Changed the vending machines to healing stations so bottles still have a use, and now group play is much more engaging. Not that I think every game should cater to people with minimal attention spans, but we all know that a large portion of the audience for these games are kids who like the wacky content, so devs have to consider their demographics. Anyways, I feel like I've explained some of the current issues well enough, so what does this game actually get right? Well, the basic concept is interesting enough. What's going on with this monster elevator? How did we get in this situation in the first place? And what are we supposed to find further down? Likewise, the crunchy, low-res, low-poly visuals work well here, and I didn't run into any issues with the online features, which is surprising for a game of this size. And even though the basic floor generation felt weak, the modifiers on top of that were cool to experience. The core gameplay of scavenging, surviving, and upgrading the elevator was cool, even if it felt kinda bare bones. Which is basically what this whole video comes down to. The game has already managed to garner a huge audience with this demo alone, so I think it'll be a financial success either way. But I'm just not sold on that Q4 2024 release date. There's just no way they can polish up the existing content and add a significant amount more with so little time. I'd be happy to play this game with some friends about a year down the line, but 2 or 3 months? But who knows, there might even be a new viral co-op horror sensation by the time this one is finished. The money train doesn't seem to be stopping anytime soon, so get that bag, indie devs. Use that cash to fund some more cool indie horror games down the line and everyone wins. But if there's any upcoming horror games you've been keeping an eye on, I'd love to hear about them in the comments below. I just happened to come across this game because it was blowing up on Twitter, but I have found a couple cool titles from you guys suggesting them too. Anyways, I think that about wraps this one up, so thanks for sticking around folks. I'll see you all in the next one.